Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, Attorney General Jeff Sessions criticizes the Maryland Trust Act, continuing story of the alleged gang rape at Rockville High School by two undocumented teens. First, President Trump praises the Freedom Caucus, then he attacks them. Are Republicans in free fall? Stay tuned. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by consultant and business strategist Rich Parsons, media consultant Jerry Cave, first vice chairman of the Montgomery County Republican Central Committee Dwight Patel, and political strategist Susan Heltemes. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. United States Attorney General Jeff Sessions this week denounced the Maryland Trust Act just before the Maryland Senate began its deliberations. If passed, the Maryland Trust Act would bar the use of local or state resources to assist in enforcement of federal immigration law, and among other prohibitions. In other words, it would make the entire state of Maryland a sanctuary state. Jerry, Governor Larry Hogan has vowed to veto the bill if passed by both houses of the General Assembly, and Senate President Mike Miller has gone on record as saying the bill in its present form would not pass. Is it time for the General Assembly to reconsider its position regarding the enforcement of federal immigration laws?
It's time for all the other politicians in the state of Maryland to stop humiliating the state. They have been making comments on television to do the sanctuary state and the other things that have gone on in this regard, and it's humiliated us in front of the entire country. And finally, we have two politicians acting like adults. Larry Hogan, who usually acts in that manner, and the shogun of the state of Maryland, Mike Miller, who occasionally acts like a responsible adult.
Rich, Attorney General Sessions contends that sanctuary city policies make Maryland more at risk for violence and crime, and it's not good policy. Is he correct?
Well, first of all, you use terms like sanctuary city, sanctuary county. Montgomery County is not a sanctuary county, and Maryland is not a sanctuary state. And by the way, if you know the Maryland legislature, if Mike Miller says the bill's not going to pass the Senate, you can take it to the bank, the bill's not going to pass the Senate. So it's great to have this conversation, but I think you're making a big mountain out of a molehill. There's very little chance that this bill is actually going to see the light of day. If Mike Miller says it's not going to pass the Senate, it's not going to pass the Senate.
The shogun calls the shots.
But the other thing is, just statistically, just keep in mind the difference in crime rates among immigrants and non-immigrant American citizens is basically zero. There's about the same percentage of immigrants who commit crimes, about the same percentage of native-born Americans who commit crimes, and there's a lot of demagoguery flying around here, but let's just keep our calmness here and just deal with the issues that confront us with crime and violence in our community, and let's not try scapegoating everything.
Well, that's well and good, but Susan, a Harvard-Harris non-media poll conducted for the Hill newspaper indicated that 80% of Americans oppose sanctuary cities. So are all of these people wrong?
Well, first I want to respond to what Jerry said. Ike Leggett also spoke out against this legislation for a lot of reasons. And I have no reason to dispute what the poll said. However, we live in a democracy. And whether it's a state, a city, a town, a county, if they want to call themselves a sanctuary, they can do it because that is their right. And what's interesting in sanctuary government or organizations, they, just like other government entities, work very hard, that is the police, to work with the immigrant community to defer crime and to solve crime. And so I agree with Rich. This is not going to be an issue in Maryland.
Let me ask you a question, Susan. If one of our municipalities said, we want everybody to register and have to carry an identity card, and every time they walk down the street, they're subject to search, is that okay just because that municipality voted for it?
I
You
don't.
seem to be in favor of all. Well, if it's all liberal policies, you're in favor of it.
No, I didn't say that. I'm saying that we are a democracy, and if an entity wants to be a sanctuary, whatever, they can do it.
So if Maryland adopted a open carry law, you'd be in favor of that.
No, I would not.
Okay, Dwight, despite the contentions of President Trump, the Center for American Progress reports that sanctuary counties have lower crime rates than comparable non-sanctuary cities. And are Republicans just wrong on this issue? Is Rich Parsons right?
Yes.
No, he's not. Let me tell you. First of all, this study is put out by Center for American Progress. That is a leftist think tank. I question anything they put out. It's probably based on making a few calls to very liberal neighborhoods, and that's how they get their numbers. I think basically the problem is they're breaking the law when they cut them across the border. They are breaking the law of coming to our country illegally, and they are illegal aliens. They are not immigrants. They're not undocumented immigrants. They are illegal aliens. That is the class that they are. That is what immigration and naturalization is called. Your green card is actually an alien registration card. These people are illegal. They're breaking the law, and quite frankly, if the border folks were doing their job, this rape would not have happened in Rockville. And that Barack Obama and the liberals and liberal Democrats on the Hill and in Annapolis and the liberals in Rockville and the
It
county
was
council
the
you're getting
Republicans
ahead
for
of yourself.
years who thwarted and stopped any immigration reform that was put forth by Barack Obama. The Senate
Barack
passed.
Obama
We
was
don't
for
need immigration.
sanctuary.
The
We need
Senate-
enforcement is what we
Senate
need.
passed
Enforcement of
legislation,
criminal
and
law.
the
Democrats
House
and
refused
Republicans
to take it
have-
up.
Wait a minute.
have
Just
all
because it was
supported
bad
enforcement
legislation
of the borders.
doesn't mean it should be passed.
But the House had a right to discuss it. They didn't even discuss it.
All right,
don't
let's
have-
go on. I want to go on to the more important topic, which was last week, the nation and our whole community was stunned by the alleged gang rape of a 14-year-old girl in a public school bathroom committed by two illegal aliens from Central America, individuals who are generally categorized as dreamers by their defenders. One suspect, Jose Montano, 17, was from El Salvador, and the other, Sanchez Milan, 18, was from Guatemala. Both were placed in the 9th grade with this poor girl. The Baltimore Sun reported the following details. Border Patrol officials stopped both teens near McAllen, Texas, detained them for maybe a cup of coffee, then handed them over to Health and Human Services Office for refugee resettlement. Also this week, it came as no surprise that Milan's father, his sponsor here in the United States, was arrested by ICE agents for being in the country illegally. Defense attorneys for the two youths say the rape was consensual and have text messages to prove it. Prosecutors respond that Montano and Milan, conspired to gang rape the 14-year-old girl. Susan, let's focus on the alleged crime. It was pretty horrific. According to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, there are approximately 293 incidents of sexual assault every year. Can you justify, or what do you make of the defense claims that the Sex Act was not rape, but was consensual?
There seems to be some disagreement about the emails that went back and forth. The prosecutions say that it was planned between the two men. However, this act is egregious, and the age disparity to me is just downright disgusting. And the bottom line is no. And that is a problem across this country with everybody. And it's going to be now a part of the sex education in Maryland, that they are going to be, there's going to be a segment on no is no. And so it's egregious, and it's going to be up to a jury to determine who did what.
But it certainly seems the media has already bought into this idea that the defense is putting out, that it was consensual.
No, they haven't. Today, all new stuff came out that there were other emails. So no, the media has not bought into it.
All right,
Casey.
Rich, Dr. N.G. Burrell, Executive Director of New York Forensics, states that group or gang rape is usually committed by teenage boys. Dr. Burrell says that teenage boys in a group can be the most dangerous human beings on the planet because, according to him, there's something about their social pathology that might contextualize otherwise inexplicable violent gang behavior. What do you make of the prosecutor's claim that the act was planned?
Well, again, as Susan said, we're going to have a trial. This is going to be fully tried, and these facts are going to be weighed against each other. You can hear the testimony of all the parties involved, and we're going to know this. I don't think we know enough to answer that question, Casey, right now, to be honest. I think certainly there is a gang mentality, a mob mentality that takes over in many cases. Again, getting back to the statistics, it's wrong to single out immigrants as if this is only a phenomenon there, because this is a phenomenon across the board.
The question is,
And
if
the way this-
this crime is correct and she was raped, it was done by two undocumented youths.
But-
yes,
but
and
rapes
to
happen
single
all
this
over
out
the
and
country.
pretend that that's the only group of people committing this kind of
Who's
alleged
saying
crime
that it's the
is
only group of people?
absolutely
Where do
wrong,
you
and you're
get- Where do you
demonizing
get the
people
idea
without
it's the
a
only
basis.
group of people?
Well,
we're talking about this particular
If you
incident.
read some of the right-wing press that's out there
Well,
nationally,
let's talk about
that
what's
is
on
exactly
this,
the
let's
case
talk about
they're
what we
trying.
talk on
It's
the
like
show,
Willie Horton all
not
over
what's
again.
in the right-wing press.
It's like
Jerry,
Willie Horton all
many
over again.
researchers have found sexually aggressive youths to be poorly socialized and to have inadequate peer relationships. A current study found that gang members significantly related to perpetration of sexual violence by both males and females, and current gang members are increased odds of sexual aggression by more than 2 times. So is this a case where these two youths didn't receive the necessary social services from Montgomery County? The system failed them.
The people who are responsible are the perpetrators. The people who are also responsible are the facilitators in state and federal government who allowed them to be here. I actually have a degree in sociology and the study of all this stuff, and this is all nonsense. These people were born and raised in another country, been here about 2 days. We're not responsible for their behavior, except for the fact that this thing would not have happened if we had enforced the law and kept them out. And it is of small consequence, Rich, to the parents and to the victims and to the victims' parents that they have suffered this at the hands of an illegal immigrant, that statistically it happens elsewhere. This,
And it's a
if
small
indeed-
consequence
you
that
know
the
what, Rich,
person was
let
an
me
immigrant
finish.
as opposed to
If
anyone else in
this
society.
was done by illegal aliens, it would not have occurred had we simply enforced the law. We cannot let anybody in this country illegally.
Dwight, the head of the National Border Patrol Union, said in Senate testimony Wednesday that the alleged rape, and this is supportive of what Jerry just said, that the alleged rape last week would not have happened if the Border Patrol had done their job. Who's responsible for the crime?
The politicians in Washington, like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, who supported amnesty and allowed those undocumented, unaccompanied minors in last summer. The fact that they didn't do their job, the fact that ICE has been doing catch and release, which is done by Fish and Wildlife, is now that's what ICE is doing, catch and release with illegals. They're catching these people, putting them back, and they get to come back in.
You know, it's ironic that Barack Obama returned more people to
He redefined
more
deportation.
Than
You're
but
out of-
he,
Let her
he,
finish.
he displaced more people out of this country than any other president, far more than any Republican
When these
president.
people came, when
You're
these
grasping.
two
You're
individuals,
grasping. You're
these two
grasping.
individuals came to the border and they were allowed in, that was on him. That was on
This
him.
14-year-old girl would not have been raped if the border security folks did their job.
And they want to do their
And-
job.
You know, this is not an issue with Barack Obama.
Oh,
This
yes,
country-
Exactly.
This
It's
is-
exactly
this
who
is
it is.
40
He's
years
the
of liberal
executive branch.
policies.
It's his responsibility to carry out federal law.
Again,
40
the
years of liberal policies.
Oh, give me a break. Again, the Republicans in the House have not dealt with immigration reform.
Enforcement
idea
of
of reform is
current
amnesty.
law.
Guys, enforcement of current law, everybody I think around this panel agrees we should be enforcing the law.
Then we
One of
don't have the
problems-
problem.
Well, okay, we don't have a problem with
The
that.
problem is gone.
Well,
There's no enforcement.
but Susan's
The
point
bottom
is,
line
Finish it up, Rap. Yeah.
enforcement at the border is something I think there's a lot of consensus across party lines needs to happen, but there also needs to be immigration reform so there isn't such a huge demand for illegal immigration, because there is no legal channel to immigrate into
Yes,
this
there
country.
is.
No,
Yes,
there
we
isn't.
have a million
There's a
people
quota
a
that's done
year.
in 5 minutes
We
every
have a
year.
million people a year.
Try coming here from Mexico. You got
When
5
we
minutes
come-
to
when
file
we come
every year,
back
and
from
then
this
it's
short
filled.
break, why do Republican efforts to kill Obamacare fail? And does finger pointing have Republicans in a free fall? Stay tuned. Welcome back. In the aftermath of Congress's failure to pass health care reform legislation, the finger pointing among Republicans came fast and swift. Conservative Review editor-in-chief Mark Levin opened his show Tuesday night slamming establishment Republicans for capitulating to leftist policies on health care and other issues. The media has used the failure of the American Health Care Act as an excuse to attack conservatives in the Congress. The Freedom Caucus, who opposed the legislation on grounds that it would not improve the American health insurance market, have been labeled hardliners who are unwilling to compromise or get things done. Even President Trump joined in on the attack against the Freedom Caucus, this time suggesting that they need to be fought in the 2018 primary elections. And finally, according to Conservative Review, in one swift stroke, President Donald Trump has become the establishment he ran against. And it concluded its article with this: "Dear President Trump, what the hell is wrong with you?" That's a good question, Dwight. What the hell is wrong with the Republican Party right now?
The Republican Party is fine. We are not sheeps like the Democrats, where when Master says do this, they jump. We have individual
I've never heard
views.
us accused of that. But anyway, go ahead.
You guys went off
We're
the
the
cliff.
opposite.
You guys
We're
went,
the-
you guys went
you
off
go
the
ahead.
cliff when
Finish.
Obamacare was rammed down our throats. Also, here's the thing. The problem with the Republican Party is we did not need to set the deadline for fixing Obamacare. It took Obama over a year to ramrod health care through.
So why are you coming apart now? Susan,
We're-
with such a great divide in the Congress, can the Trump administration govern?
Well, I find it interesting with this health care reform, as they call it. Trump said he was going to do it on day one. Repeal, replace, same day, not a problem. Yes, it took Barack Obama with meetings and gatherings and research 15 months to get it done. But what is interesting with this, Donald Trump takes no responsibility to any failures for anything. And I found out today in talking to a Democratic congressman that they have been in this session for 3 months and not one bill has come onto the floor that was marked up in committee. All of them were marked up in a back room. So, yeah, Republicans are upset and Democrats are irate. And I can only see Trump and the party imploding even sooner than I thought possible.
Karma
Rich,
backslash.
Michael Gerson in the Washington Post calls President Trump impatient and easily distracted. Is the Trump presidency, as Susan alluded to, a failure already?
Well, that's certainly Gerson's point, and I think he's exactly on target. The evidence is right there. If you look at the record low approval ratings, he's down in the 30% range. No one's ever been that low this early in a presidency in the modern history of polling. But more importantly, Gerson's point really talks about how legislating is hard. It's about mastering the details enough so that you could put together one of two things that Trump and the Republicans have a choice of doing. They can either pull together their party and build a compromise within their own ranks that can actually get a majority vote on the floor, like they tried to do with health care without involving the Democrats, but they tried that and failed. Or they can pull together the moderate Democrats and the mainstream Republicans and cut out the Tea Party wing. But either way, you've got to have enough focus, attention span, and mastery of the policy details to cut those deals, and it takes time and effort. These Republicans have had 7 years to put together one or two of those strategies, and Trump couldn't do either of them. He is on his way to imploding as one of the most failed presidents most quickly that we've ever seen in the history of the Republic.
Jerry, I know you're going to disagree with Rich, so tell us, can Trump reverse course and lead his disjointed party to victory?
There's two groups of people that shouldn't open their pie hole. The Democratic Party that put together Obamacare, that was based upon lies, that they knew were lies when they created it, that perpetrated the lies on television long after it was obvious. They should just shut the heck up. And the Republicans in Congress, and I agree with Rich on this, they had 6 years to put together an alternative to this. And the private sector, when somebody has a problem, you're lucky if you have about 6 minutes to come up with a solution. And I mean it. Because you should walk in there to your boss's office and he says there's a problem, and you should say, yeah, I know what it is. We're working on a solution. This is not funny.
You got
This is-
493 independent contractors up on Capitol
This
Hill.
is not independent
No, but you have
contractors.
Paul Ryan
These
and
are
the
Republicans
leaders.
in the Hill
Done.
that didn't
They
do
blew it.
anything for 6 years,
They
and
blew
they
it.
have no right to criticize Trump or anything else. They should have put 3 or 4 proposals on his desk before he took office, so they did this.
Well,
They are the ones
Paul
at fault.
Ryan
and the
and-
Democrats
I agree with you.
should abdicate speaking in this forum because you perpetrated a horrible law that
everybody-
hurt people, and it was based on lies.
Ryan-
Susan, I want to
check-
go to you. Come on, Susan.
Paul Ryan said, we screwed up. We've had all these years, and it's easy for us to vote against something, but we can't put something together. And that is the proof is going to be in the pudding. And Donald Trump didn't really have anything to put together, so it's going to be interesting.
Right.
My point is this. First of all, I disagree with being a horrible president. Jimmy Carter.
Much better president than what we've seen so far.
Okay, yeah.
All
But
right, come on, we've got 30 seconds. Let's go.
my point is, with healthcare reform, we're going to get it done. It's going to be done on the president's timeline, not on the Democrats or Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer's timeline.
Nobody
it's going to
said-
be done on our timeline.
It
Rich,
was
wrap it up.
Trump's
Well, this is the
timeline. He
most-
said one day.
This is the most incompetent start to a presidency I have ever seen in my adult life.
Jimmy Carter.
There's nothing's even close.
No.
Nothing's even close.
You're right.
Total incompetence,
This is
inability to
very
get the
simple.
job done. And
What they
they've
should
had, as
have
Jerry
done
said,
is
they've
they
had
should have
7 years.
repealed Obamacare and sunsetted it so that a year from now it goes out, and that would give them a year to put up a replacement.
And that's the answer. That's going to hurt all these cats.
They-
back
And
in
they
line.
live up to their thing.
They
They live up
should
to their
have
promise to
decided-
repeal it. They sunset it, and they have a year
But
for
they
the Congress to
should
do
have
it.
worked with the Democrats because the
They could have.
Democrats were willing to tweak. They
Yeah,
said
they
it.
should work with the people that gave us the problem in the first place placed on
Neither
lies.
party's willing to work with each other. That's
That's
the
not
difference.
And the
true.
Republicans
That is
don't
not
need
true.
them.
That
The
is not
Democrats
true.
weren't asked
Wait a
one
minute,
question.
guys.
8 years.
We got to go to break. Stay tuned for Party Chat. And now with Party Shots, Rich Parsons, I know he has something very important to talk about.
I have lots of important things, but I'll pick one. Here we are heading into yet another year in Maryland where we're leading the nation in traffic congestion. We've got upcoming discussions. The county planning board's being called before the county council next Tuesday, in fact, to start talking about some of the long neglected travel needs in the up county. And instead of doing what a normal person would do, is take a look at inadequate master plans that don't have enough capacity for transit or road improvements to move people where they need to go. What they're doing, they're going to talk about directing the planning board to take things out of a plan that already doesn't have enough in it. You can't get much more stupid than that when it comes to transportation policy. Montgomery County Council, wake up. It's time to start putting things in our plan like fixing 270, building Mid-County Highway, getting relief for those of us stuck in traffic, and building our economy and providing jobs, not going the other way. Get it together.
Thank you, Rich. Susan,
There is an assault on women from the right and from Donald Trump. In West Virginia, the Republican-led legislature with only 13 women cut out the Women's Commission on Women, stating that the $150,000 it cost would save the budget. In Georgia, a Republican delegate compared a woman's trauma of rape to a man going to trial on a rape charge. And then Pence broke the tie in the Senate and cut funding for Planned Parenthood. And then the biggest irony of all, Ivanka Trump hosted a Women's Day event where she showed hidden figures to little girls and said, "Oh, my daddy is doing so much." Well, the irony of all, the astronaut who was there who talked up women as astronauts, that money that she learned from all the education and money is gone in NASA. Thanks a lot.
Dwight Patel, your parting shot.
I'd like to praise the mayor of Baltimore City, who basically gives hope for the Democratic Party. She vetoed the $15 minimum wage for Baltimore City. Shows that there is common sense into all lost with all Democrats. The fact that she saw the value of you raise minimum wages $15 is going to cost jobs, and business would move out to the suburbs where they don't have to pay the $15 minimum wage. Congratulations, Mayor of Baltimore. There's hope for the Democratic Party yet.
Thank you, Dwight. And Jerry, wrap it up for us.
This horrible situation at Rockville High School is a metaphor for what's wrong with the country, and it's coming out of the left. They set no boundaries, not on the country, not on the schools, having an 18-year-old in class with a 14-year-old, not in bathrooms, not in behavior, not in drugs. And not setting these boundaries has given us the kind of result of what happened in Rockville. It's awful.
Thank you, Jerry. And I wanted to say, you know, Rich, what I thought you were going to talk about is the wonderful accomplishment that your children achieved this past week, placing first in the
World champions, baby.
World champions. I think that's something thrilling, and you should be very proud of your two children. I know it's come a long and
Thank you,
hard
Casey.
road. So
Thank you.
thank you for being here. I know it gets spirited at times. I know we have different opinions, but this is why Montgomery County sponsors this program, because we engage in honest debate. For 21 This Week, I'm Casey Aiken, and remember, tune in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show.